Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. We are diving into something pretty unique today.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, we're not looking at a ton of sources like we usually do. We're really just zeroing in on this one fascinating article about the 2024 election results.
hmm
And I got to say right off the bat, this one had me doing a double take.
Yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher. It
Yeah.
really highlights just how unpredictable things can be in politics,
For sure. And it kind of makes you rethink any assumptions you might had about
about where the country is headed.
exactly. So let's just jump right in. This article, the big takeaway, is that Trump won,
Both the Electoral College and the popular vote.
which is something that we haven't seen in, what, like 20 years? Since 2004.
Yeah, the last time a Republican candidate pulled that off was back then.
It's pretty wild when you think about it. He got 76.9 million votes, which is, I mean, that's a lot of votes, but
It's important to remember that's a plurality, not a majority. So he got the most votes out of anyone, but not more than half of all the votes cast.
right, right.
Yeah.
And the article does mention the role of third-party candidates, so that definitely plays into it. But still, a Republican winning the popular vote, it's definitely a shift, like a big shift.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what's changed? What's happened in the last 2 decades that led to this?
Exactly. So
Mhm.
what does the article point to as like the reasons behind this win for Trump? What factors contributed to it?
Well, one thing it highlights is the turnout among Trump's base. They were really fired up, showing up in record numbers.
So basically, his core supporters really came out in force for him.
Yeah, they were a huge driving force. And then there were some specific issues that seemed to resonate with a lot of voters, both conservatives and some independents as well.
Like what kind of issues?
The article specifically mentions the economy and immigration.
Okay, yeah, those are always hot button topics.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the economy, what were the specific concerns that were on voters' minds?
Well, it seems like inflation was a big one. And jobs, of course. People always worry about jobs.
Yeah, those are things that impact everyone's daily lives.
Right. And the article suggests that for many voters, they felt like Trump's policies on these things, his tax cuts and things like that, would be better for their wallets compared to what Harris was proposing.
So they saw Trump as more likely to improve their economic situation.
Exactly. And then on immigration, well, Trump's always taken a pretty hardline stance on that.
Yeah, the wall, stricter policies, that kind of thing.
Right. And it seems that resonated with a segment of voters who are concerned about, illegal immigration, its impact on jobs, security, all of that.
It's interesting, though, because it felt like there was so much opposition to Trump. How does the article explain him winning, given that?
It acknowledges that for
Fine.
sure. It uses the term polarization a lot, like it's a key theme throughout the piece.
So we're basically saying the country is super divided.
Yeah, deeply divided. There was a lot of resistance from Democrats, progressive groups, all of that. So it wasn't like this landslide victory. It was a really tight race in a very polarized environment.
Okay, so knowing all that, what does the article say about the potential implications of a second Trump presidency?
It talks about both opportunities and challenges, and I think it's important to consider both sides of that coin.
Yeah, let's start with the challenges. What are some of the concerns the article raises?
Well, first and foremost, that polarization we talked about, that's not going away anytime soon. And with Trump's, let's call it his unique leadership style and his rhetoric, there's a chance that those divisions could actually get worse.
Yeah, that's not a good thought. Especially with all the social unrest that we saw during his first term. That could definitely escalate.
Exactly. And when a country is that divided, it makes it really hard to get anything done, to pass any meaningful legislation,
Yeah,
to actually govern.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So besides just like the general social climate, are there any specific policy areas where the article sees potential challenges?
Yeah, the economy is one that comes up. The article points to some of Trump's policies, like his approach to deficits, tariffs, and regulations, as potential flashpoints.
Can you give an example? Like what specifically about those policies is concerning?
Sure. So, for example, those tariffs he imposed on Chinese goods.
Right, those were a big part of his trade war.
Right, exactly. And while the goal was to protect American jobs, there's a risk that China could retaliate, impose tariffs of their own.
And that could hurt businesses and consumers here in the U.S.
Exactly. And then his tax cuts, while they might be popular with some, they also have the potential to increase the national debt. And down the line, that could lead to cuts in social programs, things like that.
So it's kind of like short-term gain, potential long-term pain.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And it's not just the economy. The article also brings up concerns about foreign policy, specifically how Trump's approach, which has been, well, let's just say unpredictable, could impact things on the global stage.
Yeah, he definitely has a way of shaking things up. What are some of the specific concerns there?
Well, there's the potential for increased tension, not just with adversaries, but even with our allies. Trump's not exactly known for being diplomatic, so there's a risk of damaging those relationships, And that could make it harder to cooperate on things like trade or dealing with global crises.
So a more isolationist approach.
Potentially, yeah. And then there's the unpredictability factor. World leaders never quite know what to expect from him, so that can lead to a lot of uncertainty and potentially even miscalculations, which is never good when you're talking about international relations.
Okay, so we've got potential problems at home and abroad. Anything else?
The article also touches on the judicial impact of a second Trump term, specifically his potential to appoint more judges.
Yeah, he appointed a lot to the Supreme Court during his first term, didn't he?
He did. And if he gets another 4 years, he could potentially appoint even more, not just to the Supreme Court, but to lower courts as well.
And what's the concern there?
Well, the article emphasizes that these appointments could really solidify a conservative judicial influence for decades to come. And that could have a huge impact on all sorts of issues, things like abortion, gun control, voting rights, all the big ones.
Right, those are all super contentious issues. So
Yeah.
basically, it's like the impact of his presidency could continue to be felt long after he's out of office.
Exactly. That's the long game. And then finally, the article brings up concerns about, well, Trump's approach to governance in general.
Yeah, he's definitely got a unique style, to put it
Mm.
mildly. What specifically does the article point to?
It mentions his focus on personal loyalty and his tendency to, let's say, air his grievances very publicly.
Yeah, he's not one to shy away from a Twitter feud.
Right, exactly. And the concern is that this kind of behavior could undermine established norms and institutions. He's
Yeah.
constantly attacking the media, trying to pressure law enforcement agencies, that kind of thing. And that raises questions about whether his style of leadership could actually weaken democracy itself.
Okay, so that's a lot of potential downsides. Does the article offer any hope at all? It did mention opportunities, right?
It did, but it's not exactly a laundry list of specific things. It's more like an acknowledgement that predicting the future is, well, impossible.
Fair enough. So
Okay.
basically it's saying there could be some good that comes out of this, but we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah. Right. It emphasizes that a lot will depend on Trump's priorities, how the opposition responds, and just all those unpredictable events that inevitably happen. Maybe he focuses on things that have bipartisan support, like infrastructure or criminal justice reform, or maybe his approach to governing evolves. He learns from his past mistakes.
So there's a chance things could turn out better than expected, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Exactly. It's a wait-and-see situation. But I think the most important takeaway here is to stay engaged, stay informed, and think critically about everything that's happening. Don't just accept things at face value, dig deeper, ask questions, form your own opinions.
That's great advice. So to recap, we have this surprising election result, a deeper understanding of what led to it, and a range of potential implications that are both exciting and a little bit scary. It's a lot to process. But as we move forward, as we continue to watch this political landscape unfold, I want to leave you with this. We've talked about the challenges, but what about the opportunities? Could there be unexpected positive outcomes? Could we see some compromise, some progress in areas where there's common ground? Think about it, explore those possibilities, and most importantly, keep the conversation going. Talk to your friends, your family, your community. Engage with the issues that matter to you, because at the end of the day, the future of this country is shaped by all of us.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back soon with more fascinating insights and analysis. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
And stay tuned.
See you next time.
See you next time.
See ya.